Your mistake was right in front of everyone. Today, I'm going to show you how risk area signage, the kind that seems simple, can literally save lives or cause serious accidents if used incorrectly. And there's one detail almost no one knows. Not all signs are created equal, and some can even put you at risk without you realizing it. Stick with me until the end because I'm going to show you real-life examples, absurd mistakes, and the standard used in the United States that completely changed how companies deal with safety. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Eric, the Workplace Safety Guy. And if there's one thing I've learned from working and studying workplace safety for years, it's that the problem is almost never a lack of rules. The problem is that people ignore the basics. And signage is exactly that. Everyone sees it, but almost no one pays attention. It's like the air we breathe, essential, but often invisible until it's missing. I've been in countless workplaces, from noisy construction sites to high-tech laboratories, and one constant always struck me: the way safety was communicated. Or, more precisely, the way it wasn't effectively communicated. Faded signs, confusing messages, or worst of all, a complete absence of signage where it was desperately needed. But in the United States, this is handled in a completely different way, and that's where OSHA comes in. And when you understand how they do it, you start to notice mistakes almost everywhere. It's not just about putting up a sign. It's about creating a visual communication system that is universally understood, transcends language barriers, and above all, is effective in times of crisis. It's about the science behind every color, every symbol, every word. And it's that science we're going to unravel today. Let me ask you a question. Would you really know how to differentiate an immediate danger situation from a simple alert? Because that difference can be the line between walking away or leaving in an ambulance. Most companies mix everything up. They use a caution sign where there should be a danger, or a notice where the threat is imminent, and that's a serious mistake. A mistake that, unfortunately, I see with alarming frequency. This confusion isn't just an aesthetic or standardization issue. It has real and often tragic consequences. When the hierarchy of risk is disregarded in signage, the human brain, which is programmed to react to certain stimuli instinctively, is deceived. The urgency of the message is diluted, the perception of risk is minimized, and the result is a false sense of security that can lead to preventable accidents. And that's exactly what OSHA tries to prevent with an extremely standardized system. They understood that safety communication cannot be ambiguous. It needs to be clear, concise, and above all, hierarchical. They created a visual language that, once understood, allows anyone in any work environment to correctly interpret the level of risk and take appropriate actions. And it's that language we're going to learn to speak today. In a little while, I'm going to show you a very common mistake that can completely invalidate signage, making it useless or even dangerous. First, let's get to the basics. What is OSHA? The acronym stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Founded in 1970, OSHA has a clear and vital mission: to ensure safe and healthy working conditions for men and women by setting and enforcing standards, and by providing training, outreach, education, and assistance. Although it is a U.S. federal agency, its standards and the philosophy behind them are a beacon for workplace safety worldwide. Many safety legislations and practices in other countries, including Brazil, are inspired by or directly influenced by OSHA's guidelines. When it comes to signage, OSHA leaves nothing vague. There's a specific standard just for that, 29 CFR 1910.145, which deals with specifications for accident prevention signs and tags. This standard is the backbone of everything we're going to discuss today. It not only dictates what needs to be signed, but how it needs to be signed. And the most interesting thing is not just what it requires, but how it organizes risk. They created a system that anyone can understand, even without technical training. And that changes everything. OSHA understood that the effectiveness of signage lies not just in its presence, but in its ability to be immediately recognized and understood by anyone who sees it, regardless of their background or prior experience. It's a system designed for immediate action, for preventing accidents before they happen. And it's this intelligence behind the system that makes it so powerful and worthy of our attention. Here begins the part that many people ignore, but that makes all the difference. In the U.S., signs follow a clear hierarchy, and OSHA is very strict about it. It's not a matter of preference, but of compliance and, more importantly, effectiveness in accident prevention. This hierarchy consists of 4 main categories, each with its specific purpose, color, and format. 1. Danger. This is the highest category in the risk hierarchy. A danger sign indicates an imminent hazard that, if not avoided, will result in death or serious injury. OSHA is very clear. The word danger should only be used for the most severe risks. Color: red, black, and white. The top panel must be red with the word danger in white. The rest of the sign is white with black text. Format: generally rectangular. Examples: danger high voltage, danger confined space, do not enter, danger flammable liquids. Implication: when you see a danger sign, the message is unequivocal. Stop, assess the situation, and do not proceed unless you are trained and authorized to deal with the risk and have taken all necessary precautions. It's a life or death alert. 2. Warning. A warning sign indicates a hazardous situation that, if not avoided, could result in death or serious injury. It's one level below danger, but still very serious. Color: orange and black. The top panel must be orange with the word warning in black. The rest of the sign is white with black text. Format: generally rectangular. Examples: warning, hot surface, warning, moving parts, keep hands clear, warning, chemical irritant. Implication: warning means you need to be alert and take precautions. There is a significant risk, but perhaps not as immediate or with the same certainty of fatality as a danger. Still, preventive action is crucial. 3. Caution. This category is for indicating a hazardous situation that, if not avoided, could result in moderate or minor injury. It can also be used to alert about unsafe practices. Color: yellow and black. The top panel must be yellow with the word caution in black. The rest of the sign is white with black text. Format: generally rectangular. Examples: caution, wet floor, caution, wear eye protection, caution, slightly hazardous material. Implication: caution is a reminder to be attentive and follow safety instructions. The risk is lower, but still present and can cause injury if ignored. 4. Notice: safety instructions. These signs do not indicate a direct hazard, but provide important information about safety. Procedures require personal protective equipment, PPE, or directions. Color: blue or green and white. The top panel is usually blue or green with the word notice or safety first in white. The rest of the sign is white with black text. Format: generally rectangular. Examples: notice, eye protection required, safety first, report all injuries. Notice, authorized personnel only. Implication: these signs are for guidance and to reinforce safety policies. They help maintain order and compliance, but do not warn of an imminent danger. And this isn't just aesthetics. Each word carries real weight. Danger means immediate risk of death. It's not an exaggeration. If you see that, it's because the risk is already there. Now look at the problem. Some companies use caution where it should be danger, and that creates a false sense of security. And that's where accidents happen. I've seen situations where a caution sign was placed in an area with unguarded machinery that could easily cause amputations. What should have been a danger, or at the very least, a warning, was downplayed. The result? A worker, accustomed to seeing caution for things like wet floor, didn't perceive the severity of the risk and suffered a serious injury. OSHA's message is clear. Protection is always specific, and risk communication must be too. Mixing these categories dilutes the message and puts lives at risk. And in a little while, you'll see a real-life example of this happening, which will make you rethink every sign you see out there. Nothing there is by chance. Colors are not chosen randomly. They are the result of decades of research in human psychology and visual perception. Your brain reacts even before you read the text. It's an instinctive, almost primal response. OSHA, in conjunction with a NSI, American National Standards Institute, which sets consensus standards for safety colors and symbols, understands and leverages this psychology to maximize the effectiveness of signage. Let's detail the psychology behind each main color. Red, danger. Red is universally associated with danger, stopping, fire, and prohibition. It's the color that most quickly attracts attention and evokes an alert response. Think of traffic lights, stop signs, fire extinguishers. In safety signage, red is reserved for the most critical situations where there is a risk of death or serious injury. It triggers an immediate mental alarm, demanding an interruption or evasion action. ANSIZ 535-1, which deals with safety colors, specifies the use of red for danger and fire protection equipment. Orange, warning. Orange is a high visibility color, often used to warn of hazards that are not as immediate as red but are still significant. It suggests caution and the need to take precautions. Think of traffic cones, safety vests. In OSHA's hierarchy, orange is for warning, indicating a risk that could result in death or serious injury. It maintains a state of alert, but with a nuance that preventive action can still avert the worst. Yellow, caution. Yellow is the color of attention and general warning. It's less urgent than red or orange, but still indicates the need to be aware of potential hazards or unsafe practices. Think of traffic signs for dangerous curves or schools. In safety signage, yellow is for caution, warning of risks that can cause moderate or minor injuries. It serves as a reminder to be careful and follow instructions. ANSIZ 535.1 also specifies yellow for caution and for marking physical hazards. Green, safety instructions, first aid. Green is the color of safety, permission, emergency information, and first aid. It conveys a sense of calm and indicates safe paths or the location of safety equipment. Think of go lights on traffic signals, emergency exits. In signage, green is used for safety instructions or to indicate the location of emergency showers, first aid kits, etc. It guides the worker to safety. Blue, notice, information. Blue is used for general information, notices, and instructions that are not directly related to a hazard, but are important for safe operation. Think of informational signs in hospitals or airports. In safety signage, blue is for notice, providing important information about policies, procedures, or PPE requirements. Now think with me. If you mix these colors, you confuse the brain of whoever is there, and in a risky environment, confusion is the last thing you can afford. Inconsistency in color application not only violates OSHA and ANSI standards, but also undermines the effectiveness of signage. If a worker sees a red sign for wet floor, which should be yellow, and a yellow sign for high voltage, which should be red, the risk hierarchy is completely distorted. The brain can no longer differentiate the severity of threats, and the instinctive alert response is compromised. That's why standardization is so crucial. It creates a visual communication system that is predictable and reliable, even in stressful situations. I've seen danger signs hidden behind machinery. I've seen illegible warnings. And I've seen the worst of all, too many signs. Yes, excessive signage is also a problem, because when everything is important, nothing is important, and people simply stop looking. This is a classic mistake that OSHA tries to prevent. Let's detail some of the most common mistakes I've witnessed and that OSHA actively combats. Inadequate signage for the risk. This is the most fundamental and dangerous mistake. As I mentioned, Using a caution sign yellow for a risk of death, which requires danger red, is a serious failure. OSHA requires that signage accurately reflect the severity of the risk. Failing to do so is not just a violation, but a recipe for disaster. A classic example is an area with a risk of falling heavy objects marked only with caution, when it should be danger, risk of falling objects, death, or serious injury. Obstructed or poorly placed signage. A safety sign, no matter how correct, is useless if it's not visible. I've seen danger signs hidden behind piles of materials, covered in dust or grease, or placed in locations where the worker has to expose themselves to the risk just to see them. OSHA requires that signs be clearly visible and positioned to alert the worker before they enter the hazard zone. This means considering viewing angles, lighting, and potential obstructions. Illegible or damaged signage. Signs faded by the sun, corroded by chemicals, dented, or with illegible text are a maintenance failure that OSHA does not tolerate. Damaged signage loses its credibility and its ability to communicate risk. Regular maintenance and replacement of damaged signs are essential requirements. Excessive signage over signaling. This is the subtle mistake that many don't realize. When every little thing is marked with a danger or caution, the effect is the opposite of what's intended. The human brain, bombarded by constant information, begins to filter and ignore stimuli. It's the phenomenon of signage fatigue. If everything is a danger, then nothing is truly a danger. OSHA encourages focus and strategic signage, where each sign has a clear purpose and is used only where it's truly necessary to communicate a significant risk. Moderation is key to effectiveness. Signage without clear action. This is the mistake I promise to address in more detail. A sign that says danger, high voltage, is important, but incomplete. What should the worker do? OSHA and the best practices of ANSI Z 535.4, which deals with the design of safety signs, emphasize that signage should not only identify the hazard, but also indicate the consequence and the action to be taken. For example, danger, high voltage, do not touch. Risk of electrocution, the action, do not touch. And the consequence, risk of electrocution. Transform a passive warning into an active and urgent instruction. Inconsistency in language or symbols. In environments with workers of different nationalities, language can be a barrier. OSHA and ANSI promote the use of standardized graphic symbols, pictograms, that are universally understood, complemented by text in relevant languages. Inconsistency in the use of terms or symbols can lead to confusion and delay response in an emergency. These mistakes are not just compliance failures. They are communication failures that put lives at risk. OSHA, through its inspections and penalties, seeks to ensure that companies take seriously the responsibility of effectively communicating risks. Safety is not a guessing game. It is a system that requires precision and clarity. By the way, comment below. Have you ever ignored a safety sign thinking it was nothing? I want to see how many people have experienced this and what the situation was. Now we get to an even more critical part: chemical products. Here, there's no room for error. Handling hazardous substances is one of the biggest risks in many workplaces, and communicating these risks is vital. OSHA requires a globally standardized system for communicating chemical hazards, known as GHS, Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. This system was adopted by OSHA through its Hazard Communication Standard, 29 CFR 1910.1200. GHS is an international approach to classifying chemicals and communicating hazard information on labels and safety data sheets, SDS. The goal is to ensure that information about chemical hazards is consistent worldwide, facilitating safe trade and, more importantly, protecting workers. The key elements of GHS, which OSHA requires on labels and signage, include hazard pictograms. These are standardized graphic symbols that represent a specific hazard. They are easily recognizable and overcome language barriers. There are 9 GHS pictograms, each with a clear meaning: flame, flammables, pyrophorics, self-heating, emits flammable gas, self-reactives, organic peroxides, flame over circle, oxidizers, exploding bomb, explosives, self-reactives, organic peroxides, gas cylinder, gases under pressure, corrosion, corrosive to skin, corrosive to eyes, corrosive to metals, skull and crossbones, acute toxicity, fatal or toxic, exclamation mark, skin irritant, eye irritant, skin sensitizer, acute toxicity, harmful, narcotic effects, respiratory tract irritant, hazardous to the ozone layer, health hazard, silhouette, carcinogenicity, mutagenicity, reproductive toxicity, respiratory sensitizer, target organ toxicity, aspiration hazard, environment, dead tree and fish, aquatic toxicity. This pictogram is mandatory in some countries, but not by OSHA in the US, although it is common. Signal word. There are only 2 signal words in GHS. Danger, used for more severe hazards. Warning, used for less severe hazards. This is the same hierarchy we saw for general signs, reinforcing consistency. Hazard statements. Describe the nature of a chemical's hazard and, where appropriate, the degree of the hazard, e.g., highly flammable, may cause cancer, fatal if inhaled. Precautionary statements. Describe recommended measures that should be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects from exposure or improper handling of a chemical, e.g., wear protective gloves, keep away from heat. If on skin, wash with soap and water. Product and supplier identification. Product name, manufacturer or supplier name, address, and phone number. Even if you don't speak English, you understand the risk, and that saves lives. I've seen the difference a clear GHS label makes. In one lab, a new technician was able to quickly identify that a spilled product was corrosive just by the pictogram, even without understanding the English text. This quick identification allowed him to take the correct containment measures and alert the emergency team, preventing a serious injury. The GHS standardization required by OSHA is a powerful tool in preventing chemical accidents, transforming complex information into a visually accessible and universally understood format. Now comes the detail I promised you at the beginning. The most dangerous mistake of all: signage without action. The sign states the risk, but it doesn't say what to do. And that completely breaks its function. Because identifying the danger isn't enough. The person needs to know how to react. OSHA, in its guidelines and in ANSIZ 535.4, Product Safety Signs and Labels, emphasizes that an effective safety sign must contain 3 crucial elements. Hazard identification. What is the risk? E.g., high voltage, hot surface, moving parts. Hazard consequence. What can happen if the hazard is not avoided? E.g., electrocution, severe burns, amputation. Avoidance action instruction. What should the worker do to avoid the hazard or mitigate its consequences? E.g., do not touch, wear protective gloves, keep hands clear. Many companies fail on the third point. They put up a danger, machine and operation sign, but don't add keep hands clear or do not intervene without shutting down. The worker is alerted to the danger, but is left without guidance on how to proceed. In a moment of stress or urgency, this lack of clear instruction can lead to wrong decisions and accidents. I remember a case on a production line where there was a caution high noise sign. The sign was there, but there was no instruction about wearing hearing protection. Workers knew the noise was high, but many didn't wear protection because the instruction wasn't explicit on the signage. OSHA would have required a sign that said caution, high noise area, hearing protection required. The difference is subtle, but the impact on safety is enormous. Signage should be a guide for safe action, not just a passive alert. Remember that mistake I promised you at the beginning, which can completely invalidate signage. It's exactly that, the absence of a clear action instruction. Without it, The sign is just a piece of metal or plastic with an incomplete warning. Good signage needs 4 things, according to OSHA and ANSI best practices: to be clear, to be visible, to be direct, and to indicate action. Simple, but almost no one does it right. And that's why so many companies still make mistakes. Let's delve into these pillars and how OSHA and ANSI address them. Clarity. Language. OSHA requires language to be concise, easy to understand, and when possible, in multiple languages if there's a diverse forks. Avoid technical jargon and use short, direct phrases. Symbols. Pictograms. INSIZ 535.3. Criteria for safety symbols set standards for graphic symbols that should be used in conjunction with text. These symbols are designed to be universally understood, overcoming language barriers. They must be simple, easily recognizable, and represent the hazard or action unequivocally. Colors. As we discussed, the consistent use of standardized colors, red for danger, orange for warning, yellow for caution, green for safety, blue for notice, is fundamental for clarity. Visibility. Placement. Signs must be placed in locations where the worker can see them before entering the hazard zone. OSHA requires them to be clearly visible from a safe distance and not obstructed by equipment, materials, or other objects. Lighting. The area around the sign must be adequately lit to ensure the sign is legible in all working conditions. In low-light environments, photoluminescent or backlit signs may be necessary. Size. The size of the sign and text must be proportional to the viewing distance. ANSIZ 535. 2. Environmental and facility safety signs. Provide specific guidelines for minimum letter and symbol sizes based on reading distance. A danger sign that needs to be read from 30 feet away must have much larger letters than a caution sign that will be read from 3 feet away. Contrast. Text and symbols must have adequate contrast with the background to maximize legibility. Directness, conciseness. Direct message. The message should be straight to the point, without unnecessary information. Every word and symbol should contribute to communicating the risk and the action. Information hierarchy. The sign should present information in order of importance: signal word, danger, warning, caution, pictogram, hazard statement, and finally, the action instruction. Action-oriented, clear instructions. As already emphasized, the sign should not only identify the hazard, but also instruct the worker on the specific action to be taken to avoid the hazard or mitigate its consequences. This could include do not touch, wear PPE, shut down equipment, keep distance. Consequences, including the consequence of the hazard, death, serious injury, burn, reinforces the urgency of the action. OSHA not only requires these elements to be present, but also that they be maintained. This means regular inspections to ensure that signs are not damaged, faded, or obstructed. Signage is a living system that needs continuous attention to remain effective. Compliance with OSHA and ANSI is not just a legal obligation. It is an investment in the safety and lives of workers. If you want more content like this, straight to the point, no fluff, and that truly makes a difference in daily life, subscribe to the channel now. Because I always bring this kind of analysis that few people explain this way. When signage is done right, accidents decrease, productivity increases, and the environment changes completely. Because people start to perceive the risk before it happens. I've seen this firsthand. In a factory that implemented a rigorous signage program aligned with OSHA and ANSI, the results were impressive. It wasn't just a reduction in accidents. It was a shift in safety culture. Workers began to read the work environment differently. They became more proactive in identifying risks, more aware of necessary precautions, and more engaged in their own safety and that of their colleagues. Accident reduction. This is the most obvious benefit. Clear and effective signage reduces the likelihood of human error, contact with hazards, and consequently, the number of accidents and injuries. This translates into less human suffering, lower costs for medical treatment, compensation, and production interruptions. Increase productivity. A safe work environment is a more productive environment. When workers feel safe, they can focus on their tasks without the constant fear of accidents. Fewer accidents mean less downtime, less rework, and greater efficiency. Improved worker morale. Knowing that the company genuinely cares about safety and invests in effective protection systems increases employee trust and morale. This creates a more positive and engaging work environment. Legal compliance and reduced fines. Being in compliance with OSHA standards avoids heavy fines and litigation. OSHA conducts inspections and imposes significant penalties for violations, and inadequate signage is one of the most common infractions. Proactive safety culture. Effective signage is a key component in building a proactive safety culture, where prevention is valued and everyone feels responsible for safety. It serves as a constant reminder of hazards and best practices. Signage is not just a legal requirement. It is a strategic tool for risk management and for building a safer and more efficient work environment. It is the silent voice of safety, constantly communicating hazards and necessary precautions. Ultimately, it's not about the sign. It's about behavior and about how small decisions can prevent big problems. The next time you see a sign, pay attention, because it might be trying to tell you something much more important than it seems. Remember, safety is a shared responsibility. Employers have an obligation to provide a safe work environment and the tools to communicate risks. But we, as workers, have the responsibility to understand, respect, and act according to that communication. Don't ignore a sign. Don't underestimate the message. Every color, every word, every symbol was placed there for a purpose. To protect you, OSHA, ANSI, and NFPA standards are not unnecessary bureaucracy. They are the result of decades of experience, of accidents that taught painful lessons, and of an unwavering commitment to the lives and physical integrity of workers. They are our guide to a safer future. I hope this video has opened your eyes to the complexity and importance of safety signage. May you never look at a sign the same way again. May you become a safety ambassador, demanding and practicing the best guidelines. If this video made you see this differently, leave a like, because that really helps the channel spread this message to more people. Share it with your coworkers, with your boss, with anyone you think needs to understand its importance. And now I recommend you watch this other video here. Card appears on screen, because it perfectly complements what you just learned and can completely change the way you view workplace safety. Until next time, and stay safe.